Hi there, guys. It's Nick, the ASMR nerd, and welcome to another episode of Relaxing Reviews. Today, we're taking a look at, you guessed it, another mechanical keyboard, this one of the 60% variety, which means it's small, compact, and yet purports to pack a lot of functionality into its tiny frame. I've said it time and again, but right now is a great time to be a mechanical keyboard enthusiast because there is such intense competition and so many manufacturers are trying to pack in every last possible feature they can at the lowest price point. And so we've got our pick of the run of them, really. There's a lot of great mechanical keyboards out there. It's a very exciting time to be a mechanical keyboard enthusiast. And that is my introduction to this board here today, the KEMOVE 61 Snowfox, sometimes sold as simply the KEMOVE 61 or the KEMOVE Snowfox, but it's the same thing. It's a 60% mechanical keyboard with both wired and wireless functionality, courtesy of Bluetooth 5. It's got PBT keycaps, which means they're made with a more premium plastic material that's reserved for kind of more enthusiast-oriented boards, typically. It's got full RGB backlighting with per-key configurability, and it's fully hot-swappable, which means that you can take out those switches and slap in any switches you like at any time, which is pretty darn cool. You might be listening to this feature list and thinking, well, hey, that sounds an awful lot like the Anne Pro 2, which is a very well-known 60% mechanical keyboard, one that I've reviewed here on the channel and that I had pretty much only good things to say about. And yeah, this is very much a direct competitor to the Anne Pro 2, and in fact it comes in at right around the same $90 US price point. But its big differentiator, as far as I can tell, is that hot swap compatibility, those hot swap sockets that let you put in whichever switches you please, which the Anne Pro 2 lacks. So the question is, can the design, the build quality, the software, the backlighting, all that stuff of the KEMOVE Snowfox stand up to what we've seen, what sort of the established standard that's been made by the Anne Pro 2? That's what we're going to find out here today. So Banggood.com was kind enough to send over a review sample of the KEMOVE Snowfox for us to take a look at here today. If you're interested in the Snowfox as we're going through, there's of course a link down below in the video description where you can go check it out and pick it up from Banggood if you like. And if you use said link, a small portion of your purchase does come back to support the channel, which I want to make sure that you know. It's important to disclose these things, but of course I also appreciate very much if you do choose to support that way. So with all that preamble out of the way, let's take a closer look at the KEMOVE Snowfox. And here we have the KEMOVE 61 Snowfox in box. It's got a fairly attractive box, I would say. We've got a kind of schematic mechanical keyboard switch on the left side over here. We've got the KEMOVE branding. We've got this sort of artistic splash of color here. This shape looks like brush strokes almost. It says over here mechanical keyboard, and then Windows XP, Vista, 7, 8, 8.1, and 10. Which is kind of funny that they even bother to advertise Windows XP support these days. Let's be real, it's been deprecated. No one ought to be using it. But anyway, of course, the most prominent feature on the front of the box here is this big window plastic in it that gives you a nice view of the board. You can see those lovely white keycaps. This is, of course, the Snowfox variant of the KEMOVE 61, which basically just means the white one. Then they've also got the, I think they call it the Shadow, which is the black version. So sometimes, though, they do leave out the 61 part of the name. They just call it the KEMOVE Snowfox. Same thing, it's this board. The cardboard is a sort of a matte texture all around. Matte white. It says here on the front, 60% mechanical keyboard. You can see that packaging is a little worse for wear. It did suffer a bit in transit. Came direct from Banggood. They normally just kind of wrap these in sort of plastic, but there's not a lot of padding afforded to the box, so let's hope that the keyboard inside is padded in the box. KEMOVE over here. More KEMOVE on the back here, or spine, whatever you want to call it. Has a little grid that shows us the switch types and the coloration. I believe that's what we're seeing here. Oh no, what it actually has is interesting. A few different things. Can't see it there. DK61 versus the 64. So they do have a 64 key variant of this board that has dedicated arrow keys. So this is telling us it's the 61. This one uses, well, the sticker is not in the right place. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Oh, these are the colors of the switches up here. Okay, so this one uses Gatoron switches. It's available with Cherry, but this one uses Gatoron. And then it's available in a wired or Bluetooth version. This is the Bluetooth version. It will do both wired and wireless. And then this version uses brown switches. So we have the different colors. Looks like we've got, what, reds, browns, blues, and blacks are what this board is available with. Of course, it is hot-swappable. So if those are not to your liking, you can always swap them out. We've got a seal on each side, which I have pre-cut to make this a little easier. On the back, we have a picture of the board, and then we've got some writing over here. Let's see what it says. It says 60%. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Look, it says at the top, encryption. I assume it's supposed to say a description, but for one reason or another, the whole word is not there. It just says encryption. That's a little janky. 60% mechanical keyboard, PBT double shot, keycaps, support hot swappable function, adjustable RGB lighting mode, detachable Type-C interface, ultra durable keys tested to 50 million keystrokes. All keys are 100% conflict free and anti-ghosting, so they simply mean end key rollover. And please refer to the product manual for details. Okay, that's fair enough. There's a QR code in their website, and then some stickers that seem to suggest it's certified for both Windows and Mac, which, as far as I know, it is. It is advertised as being friendly for Macs. But it is funny to me that on the front they don't mention that at all. Right there. Just Windows. Whatever. Alright, let's pop it open. So the top just lifts off. And you can see that that window actually was just a cutout in the cardboard lid. and plastic was actually the dust cover that covers the keyboard underneath. Let's just put this all over here. So inside we've got a very snappy looking keyboard in white. It says KEMOVE on the dust cover over here. It looks like we are in luck, and it is well protected in the box. We've got some foam on this side, some foam on this side, and the keyboard just kind of floats in between the two pieces. It also looks like we have some bonus switches. An interesting selection of bonus switches, which are, no doubt included in the package to demonstrate the hot swap functionality of the keyboard, should you want to swap them in just to see how it works. But they are not the same colors that we saw on the exterior of the box on the lid there. We saw red, brown, blue, black here. But inside we've got a white switch, a yellow, and a green. They are all Gateron branded, I believe. We'll take a closer look at it. Well, actually, we might as well look now. Let's pull them out. So, let's see. Yes, they're definitely Gateron branded. Hopefully you can see. There we go. Might be a little tricky for you to see, but there it is. So I'm actually not super familiar with these weird colors of Gateron switches, but this is linear. It feels an awful lot like a red switch. This yellow over here, if I can get it out, it's very well secured in there, is also linear. Interesting. But feels heavier. So this has got a heavier spring in it. The Gateron yellow. Yeah, definitely. I don't know what the actuation force is, but I assume that the Gateron whites are very similar to a red switch, and the yellows are very similar to a black, would be my guess. But they're both linears. And then this green is a clicky boy. Which feels like a heavier blue, actually. Yeah, it feels like it's got the click of a blue, but it's quite a bit heavier. It's got a nice snap to it. Cool. Kind of fun. Some different little switches. Okay. So we've got this, just a pretty simple little dust cover. Not much to see there. It does have the KEMOVE branding on it. Might be hard to see, but there it is. KEMOVE. And then we've got the keyboard, which is nestled in here quite snugly. There it is. We will, of course, take a much closer look at this in a moment, but let's just quickly take a peek at the other stuff here. So underneath the keyboard, we have a very nice braided USB cable. It's nice and soft. It's not like rough, scratchy braiding. It's quite pliable, but thick. We've got the typical ferrite choke. We've got a Velcro cable wrap. We've got a USB-A on one end with actually the KEMOVE logo molded into the housing, which is very nice. And we have this neat kind of right angle USB Type-C connector on the other end. It goes into the keyboard. So, and this actually feels of quite a nice length too. It's quite weighty. This is a very high quality looking USB cable. Props to KEMOVE for a nice accessory like that. It's a little premium touch. And then underneath that, we actually have a couple of very interesting looking implements. This is a switch remover, but it's not the janky type that you get in with most keyboards. This looks much nicer. I love this soft touch plastic. It's got a nice lower register crinkle to it. It's just little sticky pouches. The switch remover. Did I call this a keycap puller earlier? I don't remember. This is a switch remover. And you can see it's got a little grippy end for pulling out switches. Normally, we just get the little kind of half loop style switch remover, which works, but not too fancy, and sometimes it can be tough to get leverage on the switches. This one here is honestly really nice, and it's KEMOVE branded. They've got the loop to help pull stuff out with. So props to KEMOVE for this very high quality looking switch remover. I've actually never seen one quite like this before, so that's cool. And then we've also got a wire type keycap puller. Which is similarly branded with the KEMOVE name. Similar design with the hole for pulling. And these wire type keycap pullers are way superior to the, again, the sort of just half circle type with the prongs, because these do not damage your keycaps, whereas the other type can. It can scratch the sides. So good job, KEMOVE. Very nice pack-ins all around, actually. Some neat extra switches, some cool tools, and a very nice USB cable. And then we've got what looks like a very Spartan user guide. It says here, KEMOVE mechanical keyboard manual. It's got a picture of the keyboard on the front. Inside we've got what looks like function layers explained. On the back, just some information about KEMOVE. Some pictures of switches, some certifications. Please feel free to contact us if you meet any question when using our products. Customer at kemovetech.com. No warranty information, unfortunately. Yes, so this is all just functions. We've got the basic things, lighting controls, we've got media functions, we've got the F keys. We've got the nav cluster, arrow keys, Bluetooth functionality, a list of lighting modes it gives us here. What does it say? Streaming light, stars, pulse, ripple, pure color, breath, encounter, vertical and horizontal, blooming, Spectrum, Light Rain, Flying Trace, and Game Mode. So pretty basic stuff, really. Nothing too complicated going on there, but looks like it does tell us what it needs to. It's kind of like a cardboard as opposed to paper. Cool. And then that's it. That's everything in the box. Just these big foam protective pieces, which seem to have done a pretty good job of protecting the keyboard in transit, which is nice to see. And that's that. Alright, it's time to take a look at the keyboard itself. And here is the KEMOVE 61 Snowfox. It's quite a looker, I would say, isn't it? It's got this, it's got a standard 61 key, 60% layout. Nothing weird about that. So the keycap layout is standard, and you can swap it out with whatever keycaps you so desire. But the case itself is a little different than what we've seen on most 60% boards lately. The An Pro sort of wedge-shaped case has been very popular among budget 60% makers, especially those out of China, for a while now. This does something a little different, which is nice to see. It's got this like two-piece construction. So we've got this outer white shell here, which does have a slight incline to it, as you can see. It's got a bit of the wedge shape going on. It's probably just a couple degrees, maybe 4 degrees or something. Not a lot. But then we have an inner black piece, which goes all the way around and is quite visible on the side here, because the white one kind of cuts down. It's a cutout, and it makes that black inner, it's almost like an inner liner, quite a bit more apparent around the front and the sides. Then you can't really see it on the back. But on the back, we do have a couple of switches here. Interestingly, we've got an on-off switch, which is presumably for the Bluetooth. Although, interestingly, when I turn, oh yes, when I turn it on, the lights do become visible. You can probably see it in there. There we go, off. And then we've got a Windows Mac toggle as well, a hardware switch for that, which is another interesting thing. Normally you just see a keyboard shortcut for that. A hardware toggle is uncommon. These switches are a little bit rattly. You can hear. A little bit loose, but they feel good enough to flick back and forth. I'm sure they function just fine. Over here on the left-hand back corner, we've got a USB Type-C connector. And then the corners themselves are kind of rounded off, like so. So, and there's really no sharp edges around here. Everything's kind of nicely finished. Moving around the back. Ooh, look at that. Big key move. So what's this? Huh, weird. Just a little bit of, I don't know, some kind of paper material. Yeah, we've got the big KEMOVE logo here, right across the back, and then we've got a serial number underneath that, but then not much else, honestly. It's basically just that, in terms of branding, and, you know, there's some certifications and stuff on the back, or, you know, contact info for the company, but none of that here. It just says KEMOVE, and a big old sticker with the serial on it. We've also got some rubber feet. Unsurprisingly, we've got these little fixed ones at the bottom. We've got these flip-out feet at the top. They are just sort of a one-phase flip-out. They don't have like a second height, but if you wanted to add some more height to the board, which already does have a built-in incline to it, you can do so. They have rubberized feet, which actually come off, it would appear, quite easily. Oops. And that's that. Not much to see there. So, quite straightforward. The construction is entirely plastic. There's really nothing metal about it. I think even this inner black liner is plastic, I believe. But the top plate underneath all the keycaps is almost certainly metal. It does appear to be. The plastic feels of good quality, though. It's got kind of a matte texture to it. Let's see if we can catch the light a little bit on it, so you can just see. You can see it's got a bit of a very light texture. The keycaps look good. They are, again, PBT double shot shine through keycaps. The default set that this comes with is clearly covered in secondary functions. The secondary functions are they shine through? Or are they pad printed? You know, I dare say I think they might be shine through. That is very uncommon. Usually, on most keyboards, the secondary functions are just pad printed on, whereas the primary legends are shine through. Let's just take a closer look at that, shall we? Let's pop one of the caps off. We will use the included keycap puller. Let's take out escape, because it's got secondary functions on it. So there's the cap. The legends themselves seem pretty darn sharp, actually. Sometimes with more primitive double shot technology, you get these legends that look very stencily and not that sharp, but that is not the case here. It all looks pretty good. These are also very thick. Look at that. Look at the thickness of those caps. That is certainly a cut above what you typically get on more budget-oriented keyboards, and I dare say it's thicker than the caps on the N Pro 2. So that's really nice. There is virtually no flex whatsoever. A tiny little bit, but they're nice and thick. And they have a somewhat matte texture to them, which you can probably see there. Not nearly as textured as the caps on the drop control, which I reviewed recently. Much smoother than that. Much more like a just standard conventional keycap texture. But I think in terms of thickness, they do compare favorably. And I would say the quality of the Legends compares favorably to those caps as well on the control. The one thing I'm not quite clear on, let's hold this up to the light. Okay, no, I don't think the secondary caps are shine through, unfortunately, or the secondary Legends. If I hold it up to the light, you can't see it, but I can see the shine through on the primary, but not the secondary. So that's too bad, but it's to be expected. That's quite typical. It just looks a bit like it. Yeah, same for the control key over here. So that's okay though. Nice and thick still. Okay, well let's. So it looks like the arrow keys on this board are hidden behind the Alt, the menu, and the control keys over here. You probably hold down Function, and then you can use this like an arrow cluster, which is not too bad. So I can hear right off the bat. There's a bit of pinging there. This has Gatoron Browns on it, by the way, so tactile switches. Not linear, but not super clicky. Little bit of pinging. Not too bad. Average for this kind of board, I would say. It's got a good weight to it, probably because it's got a big honking battery in it. So that definitely gives it a feeling of weightiness and density. But generally speaking, all the plastics used throughout are just nice and thick. Like the outer case here, nice thick plastic, and then all the caps are nice and thick as well. Let us take, actually I was just noticing, I was looking at the Legends here, and I was noticing there is a bit of inconsistency in the text. Like the tab here, it looks a bit bolder, thicker, like the lettering looks thicker than either the caps lock or the shift. The font looks a little different, doesn't it? It's a very minor thing, but it's one of those polished things that does bother me a little bit when, you know, when the lettering doesn't look quite consistent across the keyboard. But it is something I've seen on a lot of keyboards out of China. And actually, yeah, like here, the lettering on the control key, very bold and thick. On the shift key, much thinner. And then enter is sort of in between. Not a big deal, just a minor aesthetic quibble. And again, something I've seen before, but okay, let's take off a couple of keycaps here. And just pull these guys off over here. And I will show you the switches quickly. Take a quick look at the back plate. We will take a switch out and swap it with one of the other ones they've included just for funsies. And then we'll check out the stabilizers to see if they're lubed. I am gonna guess. I bet they are. These are very smooth and not too rattly. Like there's a bit of rattle, but not too much. I bet you they're lubed. We'll see. So there are the Gatoron Browns, looking like Gatoron Browns, which they're basically Cherry MX Brown clones, but I do find that Gatoron Browns tend to actually be a bit smoother in their action than Cherry MX Browns. They do have a very nice smoothness to them. Let's just pull one out using the fancy dancy keycap or switch puller that we've been given here. Honestly, I've never used one like this before, so let's just give it a shot. Just kind of pop it on here, on either side, squeeze, and I don't think I have it quite under the edge on the front edge there. There we go. Out she comes. Relatively easy to do. Just like the sample switches that we were looking at, these have opaque white lowers, translucent uppers, and you can hear that tactile bump in there. Nice smooth action. I reckon the Cherry version of this board probably costs more, because Cherry switches do command a premium, but for my money, I'd take the Gatorons. I like them more. So we can see that actually we have very nice looking. We have a white top plate underneath made of what looks like pretty nice thick steel. And then underneath that we have a jet black PCB with the hot swap socket terminals in there that matches really nicely with this inner liner. It's all very nicely coordinated, and that does confer a feeling of quality to it. You don't have like a janky green PCB hanging out under there or something. So let's replace that with one of the ones they gave us. Let's put in that green. I think the green's kind of interesting. So you can just do this by hand. You just kind of line it up with the socket and then just push it into place. And there it is. It's just that easy, folks. Very straightforward. That seems to work just great. So last thing we're going to take a peek at here before we move on to looking at the lighting and stuff is the stabilizers. Let's pull out the backspace. Oops. So, was I right? I might have been wrong. It's hard to tell sometimes, especially when it's at first blush. Or maybe not. No, I think these are. I think they are lubricated. There's very little rattle to them. Listen. I've been wrong about this before, but sometimes you have to really look down in there. You gotta look at the wires, actually. Yeah, they totally are. You can see lubricant on the wires in there. I don't know if you can, but I can. Yeah, let's try a different one, maybe that shows it a little better. Let's just put that cap back on. Nice sound, eh? Very little rattle. Nicely controlled. Very smooth. Very smooth. Let's take off left shift. Yeah, you can totally see lubricant down on the wires in there. Again, it might be, well, it's not wires, it's a single wire that connects both sides of the stabilizer, but I reckon you can't see it, but it's in there. I can see it. And it does feel like it. So hey, you know what? I always love seeing lubed stabilizers from the factory. It's just a sign of attention to detail. It really is. And it means they care about the typing experience and how, you know, especially how enthusiasts interact with it. Nice and smooth, not rattly. Very nice. Of course, because this is entirely hot swappable, you can actually just, if you wanted, you can unscrew like you can take off the keycaps, you can unscrew the back plate and the PCB together. Actually, they're kind of a sandwiched unit, and you can lift that whole thing right out if you want to, without having to take out the switches. KEMOVE has a video where they demonstrate that. I'm not going to do that here because I don't think there's a lot of value in showing you that, but it is an option. What I do think there is value in showing you is the backlighting, the Bluetooth functionality, all that good stuff, and of course the typing test, the typing experience. So that is what we're going to go do next. Let's take a look at that backlighting. And here we have the KEMOVE Snowfox, or 61, whatever you want to call it, plugged in and showing off its RGB goodness. We're going to take a quick look at the onboard backlighting that's available just as part of the firmware, and the Bluetooth functionality before we take a look at the software, and then we get to the typing test. So for the onboard backlighting functionality, we have some basic controls here. Under P and left bracket, we can control brightness. So if we hold down function P, or press function P rather, we can reduce brightness in quite a few steps, I might add. You can see it flashes there when we hit the bottom with the backlight off. Also, the Z key illuminated over here is because the Bluetooth profiles, the different devices it's connected to, reside under the Z, X, and C keys. And when I'm holding down function, the Z key is illuminated to let me know that that one is paired. We'll talk more about Bluetooth in a second, but anyway, let's bring the backlight back on. You can see the dimmest setting is very dim indeed, which is actually kind of nice if you want a backlight but you don't want it bright. I've actually never seen a backlight setting that's quite so dim. Let's bring it back up. There's a lot of steps of brightness here. I would say maybe like 10, maybe a dozen. Lots. We're still getting brighter there. You can see when we get to the brightest step, the key flashes to let us know. So that's a good thing. Then here under the semicolon and apostrophe keys, we hold down function, press semicolon. We can slow down this animation until it is pretty darn slow. It just creeps along row by row. It also looks pretty chunky when it's that slow. We don't quite get the smooth gradients, but it is going awfully slow. Let's speed it up again. Let's see how fast it goes. Oh, that's pretty quick, but I think it gets faster yet. Oh my gosh. That's as fast as it goes. That's definitely too much. Let's slow it down again. So we've got quite the range of speed options here for our wave effect. Of course, the wave effect isn't the only one available. By default here, we can go function / and we can see a handful of other effects. What have we got here? So it's sort of a breathing effect, I guess, going through different colors. Fair enough. We've got just fading through different colors. Again, we could change the speed on any of these. I will say, if we look at color rendition here, the red tones don't look quite right, do they? Very quickly fades through red, and it's more of an orangey color than a true red. I find that's an issue with a lot of keyboards. For whatever reason, LEDs don't seem to be great at replicating red colors faithfully. At least the LEDs on many keyboards aren't. And that does appear to be the case here. So we've got kind of a a raindrops effect. That's nice. I don't know what that is. What's it doing? Oh, weird. I'm really not sure what's happening here, but okay. Anyway. Oh, we've got like falling kind of waves. It's almost like the Matrix. That's pretty neat. Oh, this looks like a reactive type setting. Yep, where when we touch a key, it shoots out colors along the lines, or along that row. Another, oh, that's like a cross. That's kind of neat. Actually, don't know if I've seen that one before. This might just be solid color. Yeah. Oh no, it's actually reactive. When you press a key, its color changes briefly. Okay. The whole keyboard lights up with a different color when you press a key. And then goes dark. Lots of reactive modes here. Oh, interesting. So this is reactive mode where it just makes like a little ripple close to where you press the key, but it doesn't go all the way across the board. I like that. This looks like some preset mode where you can choose which keys you want illuminated and which you don't. This looks to be, yes, a solid color mode. Now, interestingly, before I updated the firmware on this board, I'm pretty sure I used to be able to hold function and press right bracket here, and it would give me additional lighting modes, but that doesn't seem to be the case here. It also seems that I can't change this fixed color. It's just on this kind of reddish. So I don't quite know what's up with that. Of course, there is software that lets us, change all this stuff, but at least in hardware, I can't cycle through colors on the fixed color mode. And then we're right back to the rainbow wave. So that's apparently all we get in firmware, without software control. Fortunately, there is software that looks to be pretty good, and we'll take a closer look at that in a moment. But really quickly, let's just look at some of the other secondary functions. So if we hold down function and we press any number of keys along the middle row here, we actually have media controls, which is great. Play, pause, fast forward, volume is over here, all that kind of thing. Function and the number row, of course, gives us our F keys. And then over here on the sort of right-hand side of the alphanumerics, holding function gives us access to our nav cluster. It's right here under J through L, M through period, and actually we have our print screen as such up here. It's a very clever layout that packs in all the functionality of a full-size board into this layout. So that's great to see that we have that kind of coverage by default without having to remap anything in software or use any third-party software, for example. In terms of Bluetooth, as you can see, we've got our first Bluetooth slot here occupied by my PC. So I'm just going to turn on Bluetooth using the switch here. And I'm going to unplug the keyboard here. And it goes dark. But if we press a key, it comes back on. And now I should be able to go here. I know you're not seeing right now, but I can tell you that it is indeed typing just fine on my PC with that Bluetooth connection. So let's, I'm just going to pop open Bluetooth on my phone here. And I'm going to try and bind the next Bluetooth slot to my phone. So if we hold function and then we hold X, it should start to flash in a moment. There it goes. So that means it's in pairing mode. And I'm just going to look for it here on my phone. Let's take a look and see what's available. There it is. It shows up as KEMOVE 61M. I guess I can show you there. Maybe you can't quite see it, but it's there. Let's pair. I have successfully paired. And then I ought to be able to just open some kind of document here. Just open Google Drive. Create a new doc. And if I start typing, there it is. So, that appears to be working without any appreciable delay, which is great. Very good. And now we should simply be able to go function Z, and it should, there it goes, reconnect to the PC. And if I go, it's typing on the PC. Excellent. So the Bluetooth functionality does seem to work pretty flawlessly. It switches devices quickly. There doesn't appear to be any latency, although, or not appreciable latency. Although, as I always say, if you're doing any gaming or whatever, you're better off in wired mode, especially if, you know, response times matter. There is always some latency inherent in the Bluetooth protocol. So, but this does use Bluetooth 5.0. So, you know, it should be pretty quick. But let's just plug it back in here. Where's that? Right there. We're plugged in. We can turn off Bluetooth mode with switch, the hardware switch. And we should still be able to type. We can, because we're back in USB mode. So that's great to see, nice and easy to use. The next step is to take a look at the software. And here we have KEMOVE's Apex software. This is readily downloadable from their website, which is all in English, mercifully. However, you do have to register to download the Apex software because evidently it is still in beta. At least that's how it's listed on their website. Registration is easy enough, but anyway, it is something you have to do if you want access to this software. You can see that we are met here with honestly a fairly sparse looking interface. And again, it is in beta, so, you know, adjust your expectations accordingly. But this is kind of a home page. We've got a hardware troubleshooting button here, KEMOVE forum button. We've got all their socials and junk down in the bottom left corner. We've got a video player here, which I'm not going to play right now, but it's actually an embedded YouTube video with a review of the keyboard from some guy. I can't remember the channel. So, all right. And then we have the two keyboards that are supported by this Apex software right now, the KEMOVE Shadow and the KEMOVE Snowfox. As far as I know, they are identical keyboards, just different colors. So I don't really know why they make you choose, but anyway, we have the Snowfox, so we'll click on that in a second. I just wanted to show you, there is sort of these arrows here. So this is a kind of a carousel style situation, which implies that there will probably be support for other keyboards in the future. There's also a button here that tells us about the latest firmware version. We could click update, but I already did that. So actually we've already got the latest version of the firmware. But it worked very quickly and easily, downloaded it and installed it automatically, which is great. We've also got some settings here that let us pick language and mercifully choose whether the software runs on Windows Startup. Some don't let you do that. So let's click Snowfox to go into the configuration settings here. We are met with a slightly confusing looking interface. Also confusing because the keyboard pictured here is actually the shadow, even though we clicked on the Snowfox button. So I don't know why they wouldn't have a picture of the Snowfox here, but whatever. So our various configuration settings are controlled over here. We've got lighting, we've got key remapping, it looks like. We've got macro recording, and we've got, I don't know, program settings? I'm not quite sure. I don't know what this is, honestly. This is very confusing. I don't know. Related program. We can save. It saved it. I don't know what it did. Very odd. Well, let's go back to lighting here anyway. We can see that it has actually changed the lighting on us here to what we've got configured in software, which is wave. We've also got conical band, which is something we did not see in hardware or when we were just looking at the default ones. Spiral. Whew, that's a new one. Cycle. Okay, so we saw that. Linear wave. Oh, these might be reactive modes. Yes, indeed. Ripple, probably another reactive mode. Breathing, we saw that. Rain, we saw that. Oh, that's a little different though. Fire. Oh, not quite sure what that is. It's just like little. Huh, that's different. That's pretty cool, actually. Trigger. Probably another reactive mode. Yes. And audio cap. Now, this is probably a sound reactive mode. Maybe not. Doesn't seem to be working. Odd. I thought that this would be a sound reactive mode because I think that was advertised for this board. Evidently not. I'm not sure why that's not working. I'll play around with that. Maybe I can come up with something. Anyway, it seems like each setting... Oh, now it's not giving us back our lighting. Oh, there we go. Strange. Each setting does have a whole whack of options here. Which appear to, I don't know, bandwidth, opacity. I don't know. What does opacity do? That's just brightness. Okay. So we can bring that down and it's off. That makes sense. Speed, of course, we can control. Bandwidth, I have no idea what that does. Let's find out. Oh, it changes the width of the gradient. Ah, very cool. Okay. So if you want a tighter gradient, you can make it smaller. Wider gradient, make it bigger. Defaults to 200. This looks much nicer, actually, than the wave that comes as a preset. And even on tighter bandwidth settings here, the gradients appear smoother, which is interesting. Also, angle. Oh, weird. Very cool. So we have different angles across the board. It doesn't have to be horizontal. We can do arbitrary angles. We can go from, not the different, I would have assumed, I guess 180 would be the other direction. Let's just do this. Indeed it is. Very cool, very cool. And if we wanted it coming down from the top, we could set it to 90. Or from the bottom, pardon me. I wasn't sure which way, but that's cool. That's I've never seen arbitrary angle control like that. Very cool. Okay. Let's and okay, so is there arbitrary per key backlighting control? That's something I would like to know. If we hit edit, what does it give us? What the heck is edit? Lighting setting. Okay. do we... Okay. Oh, wow. Frame by frame control. All right. Oh, so we can create custom animations, you guys. That's pretty cool. And then what's this? So we can check static. Oh, so we've... Huh. So in each frame you can have a different effect as well. This looks pretty deep. I'm not going to go way into detail on this right now, but it looks like there's a lot of options here. So the lighting editor is quite powerful, and it does let us make multiple frames of animation. We can set the length for each frame. I have no idea how many frames it lets us do, but there we go. That's the maximum. 19 frames of animation. That's pretty good. That's way better than most keyboards I've seen, so that's pretty cool. Let's take a look at the key remapping. So this lets us, gosh, what is this? Oh, wow, okay. I think I rebound escape to 2. Yeah, that totally did that, okay. What is going on here? I'm not sure what that is. But let's say we run rebind D2. I don't know why for some reason. There it is. Very good. Let's say we wanted to give it some kind of media control. Those are here. System controls. Very good. Mouse options. You can disable it. You can also choose different layers. Oh, it is complex. Whew. Okay, Alt, Shift, Control. So I guess these are for holding down different modifiers. You can give it different options. Cool. It looks like we've got 4 different layers. Wow. That's quite something. What happened to our D key? Okay. There's a lot going on here, you guys. I'm not sure why the function key here is illuminated. Oops, I just said D to function. Okay, well this looks very powerful. Again, more powerful than most keyboard software that I've encountered. It's got what look kind of like settings similar to almost as like QMK, but not quite as powerful as QMK. QMK does have a variety of other options that we don't see here, but let's figure out this layer situation. So what does... So did I make D toggle layer 1? I think that may be what I did. I'm honestly not quite clear. I'm going to have to experiment more with this. What does this function button up here do? Oh. It enables a whole bunch of other functions, including those backlight controls that we were seeing earlier. It looks like we can assign those as well. So let's say D. Yeah, so we just assigned one of the backlighting control functions to the D key. Cool. I will say, and then we've got these over here. What? These are different profiles. Very interesting. Okay, it looks like you can set the timeout length of time for when it's on in Bluetooth mode, or if you want it to time out at all. Presumably that's where the lights turn off. You can do this on a per. So these are not layers so much as they are profiles, perhaps? I'm honestly not quite clear on that. Looks like we can add more of them as well. And then we can also trigger macros, of course. Wow. Okay, there's a lot here, but I will say this is kind of confusing. We've also got... What the heck? Oh, we can reorder them. Okay. Reorder the layers, I guess. I'm not quite clear on whether these are profiles or layers. I guess they're layers. Wow, okay. We've got macro editing here. That looks like we can do just your basic kind of macro recording. Let's create a new one. Oh, never mind. We already had one. So we're recording now, I guess. Oops, mouse clicks. Yeah, okay, there we go. So it's basic macro recording. Records the delays in between. We can probably edit this. Or the time that they're pressed for. Can we edit? What does edit do? What the heck? Why has it brought us back to lighting control? That's confusing. Huh. If I want to edit the time here that this lasts for. There we go. There's the edit button. Okay, so this is some pretty typical macro functionality stuff, but it looks like you can get very granular. You can set like a set delay, or you can just have it record the delay as you record it. You can also go in and change the delay by the millisecond. So, wow, there's a lot here, guys. And then I still have not figured out. I still have not figured out what the heck this setting here is. Related program. I guess I can launch programs. Maybe that's what it is. But none of this is explained particularly well. And this interface is pretty confusing, I will say. So I think I'm going to leave it there. I might spend some more time messing around with this software. It looks like there's quite a bit here. I think that we've sort of had a general overview of all the settings, though, and I don't want to belabor the point too much here, but it looks like this is very powerful. I'm especially impressed with the per frame editing that's available for the backlighting. That's pretty fun. You could literally animate stuff like, I don't know, like a Pac-Man or whatever, something if you wanted to. That's pretty cool. And it looks like there's all the expected remapping functionality, macro recording functionality, even more than expected, in that it seems that there's a heck of a lot of layers available on this keyboard. I'm going to have to dive into that a little bit more and figure out exactly what's going on there. But powerful software, not the most intuitive software. So it's definitely going to take a bit of grappling with to figure out. But in some sense, those kind of balance each other out. Like, yeah, it's a little bit janky, as these pieces of software often are, but it looks like you can do a heck of a lot. So perhaps I can forgive them a little bit. Also, still in beta, evidently. So perhaps there will be improvements down the line. Okay, well, now that we've had a chance to check out the backlighting and functionality with the Bluetooth and, of course, the software, I reckon it's time for the typing test. Let's give this thing a listen. So we've done the things. We've unboxed the keyboard, taken a very extensive look at it. We looked at the backlighting, the secondary functions, the Bluetooth functionality, the software, and we took it for a typing test. This is the part of the video where I just give you just sort of my subjective impressions of using the keyboard. I talk about the usage experience. I'm going to keep it pretty short because honestly, I don't have a lot to say. It's just really good. It's a really solid keyboard. It feels very weighty and solid to type on, which is always an important part of the typing experience. And that's probably conferred by that robust case, granted, made of plastic, but still very solid. And the massive battery that sits in there. This thing has a 3000 milliamp hour battery, which is significantly larger than most keyboards of this size. I believe the Anpro 2 has a 1900 milliamp hour battery in it. So this thing has a much bigger, higher capacity battery. Anyway, the combined effect is that this thing is really solid to type on and felt really good. Also contributing to the good typing feel are those lovely, smooth Gatoron brown switches, which, if you watch these reviews regularly, you know I am personally a big fan of. So, check mark there for me. But of course, it does come in other Switch flavors if you prefer the clicky or the linear experience. And being hot swappable, you can put any switches you want in there. I believe that there is a cherry switch variant that is sold as well if you prefer to buy it that way. And the lubed stabilizers. So this thing comes with the factory lubricated stabilizers, which is always, in my opinion, a mark of attention to detail. It goes to show that the manufacturer has really thought about what enthusiasts want, and it really does improve the typing experience. Radley stabilizers are the bane of my existence, and so the smooth action on the spacebar and the stabilized keys on the KEMOVE Snowfox is a real pleasure. I will say that the spacebar does bottom out pretty hard, and certainly it could benefit from getting in there and band-aid modding it so it doesn't just slap against the backplate like that. But that's a minor quibble. I've never seen a keyboard with like a padded bottom out on the spacebar, at least from the factory. I've never seen anyone do that. So that's always a sort of an enthusiast modification that people add after the fact to improve the typing feel, which you could do very easily on this board, again because it's designed to come apart. You can lift out the PCB with the backplate attached quite easily, and of course all those switches just pop out without having to desolder anything. So this keyboard is quite easy to take apart, put back together if you were inclined to do so, to make some modifications of your own. In terms of the Bluetooth usage, never had a hiccup, not a single issue. The connectivity was good everywhere that I tested it in my office space. And with Bluetooth 5.0, you should get quite substantial range on that, should you want it. It was also, it appeared to be very low latency. I typed on it, I gamed on it, I worked on it, and I didn't notice any discernible input lag, although I'm sure it's there. That's just the nature of Bluetooth. But both the Bluetooth experience and the wired experience were really good, so no complaints there. The battery life also, as you might imagine for a large battery like that, was really good. I found that it lasted through the day with the RGB lighting turned up all the way. I tend to recharge it overnight. It's just habit. I plug it in. So I didn't give it a full endurance test, but it got me through my days, and that's enough for me anyway. So the battery department seems to be pretty positive. Really, in terms of the actual typing and usage experience day to day, I have pretty much nothing bad to say about this keyboard. All the functions I needed were there as well, which is a pet peeve when some keyboards don't have secondary functions for like print screen or just other keys that I commonly use. But they're all there by default on the secondary function layer with the KEMOVE. And they're arranged in a very logical way that mirrors the nav cluster arrangement on a full size or 10 keyless board. Also all the media keys and all that stuff. So really the day-to-day usage of this board has been very strong. The only thing that I'm going to mention is that on the original firmware that the board shipped with, it seemed like when I turned off my PC, the lights on the keyboard would stay on, like the backlighting, they just keep going. Even when I had the Bluetooth hardware switch in the off position. This was specifically when I had it plugged in to my PC, the lights would stay on. And that was something that I had never seen before. However, after updating the firmware using their software updater for the firmware, that behavior stopped. So if you have this board or you pick it up and you're running into that issue, you want it to turn off with the rest of your PC, all you got to do is update the firmware. That did seem to resolve the issue. Okay, I think that's everything I wanted to tell you about my day-to-day usage experience. Overall, really, really good. So let's wrap it up here. I'm going to give you my pros and my cons about this board, summarize everything I liked and maybe didn't like quite as much before giving you my final verdict. Starting with those pros, the stuff I really liked about this board. There's a lot of it. This is a long list, so settle in, buckle up. The first thing was the fairly premium pack-ins that we saw with this board. The presentation was really nice with the extra switches included, the high-quality keycap remover and switch remover, and the really nice braided cable that was included with the keyboard. It all comes together to give it a feeling of a premium package. I was also really pleased with the aesthetics of this board. I actually posted a picture of this board quite some time ago when it first arrived on my Twitter, because I just thought it looked really great. The two-tone design of the case with the white exterior and that black inner liner. It was a bit different, I guess, than what I've seen from other 60% keyboards, for better or for worse. Many of the mechanical keyboards that you find in this price range mimic the Anne Pro 2 right down to its visual design. Certainly we saw that with like the Fecker Machinist and similar boards. And that wedge-shaped case, you know, it looks good, but you can only see it so many times before it gets a little old. So really pleased with the aesthetics of the KEMOVE Snowfox. I think it looks fantastic. I also think it feels fantastic to use. Despite being made almost entirely out of plastic, the plastics are of very high quality, and the build is such that it just feels solid. There's almost no deck flex, almost no hollowness to the case, and that confers a really nice typing sensation to the board. Continuing along the theme of good build quality is the keycaps. The keycaps are really good. They are made of 85% PBT, so they have that lovely feel to them where they don't shine up. They maintain their sort of matte texture, unlike ABS caps, which tend to shine up very quickly. These keycaps are, of course, double shot, shine through. The secondary legends are pad printed, which is somewhat unfortunate, but it is par for the course. I think it's all I've ever seen. I don't think I've ever seen shine through secondary legends, so it's just kind of how it goes. But overall, the keycaps look and feel really nice. Oh, the legends, I meant to say, are very sharp. The primary legends, none of that kind of chunky, primitive double shot look. All the text is very clear and sharp. It doesn't have that stencily look to it. A detail point that I was very pleased to see was the lubed stabilizers. As I mentioned earlier, that to me is always a sign of a company that cares about the usage experience of its keyboard beyond what the typical user would expect. It's sort of a nice enthusiast level detail that really does improve the typing feel of the board. Perhaps the greatest strength of this board, however, in relation to its competitors especially, is its wide hot swap compatibility. This isn't your crippled hot swap that you see on cheaper boards where they'll only take out Temu style switches. No, this is full on hot swap compatibility with every switch on the market, every Cherry style switch, I should say. So if you want to slap in switches from Kale, from Gateron, like this one came with, from Cherry, from Temu, or any more bespoke switches that you may have, they will all go in here just fine, and that is one of the major selling points of this board. Another selling point is, of course, its hybrid wired and wireless functionality, which, as far as I can tell, works really good. Uses the latest Bluetooth 5.0 standard and was very solid in its performance. No finicky connection issues or anything like that, so that was good to see. Another big selling point on this board, I know I'm just listing down the selling points here, is the size of the battery. Like I said, it's larger than you usually see on keyboards of this size and price, and it got me through the day just fine at maximum brightness, so that was good to see. And finally, I do want to say that the software for this board is very powerful, not necessarily intuitive or easy to use, and we'll get to that in just a moment, but it is powerful in that it provides a whole ton of options for key remapping, for multiple layers, multiple function layers, as well as backlight customization. In fact, it lets you create custom animations up to 19 frames long. This is a feature I've only seen on a couple of other boards before. The one that comes to mind is the Bloody branded keyboard that I reviewed, oh gosh, a couple of years ago now. It was a major selling point for that board. It's not even advertised as a feature on the KEMOVE 61, but digging around there in the software, we did find it, so you can make fun little animations if you so choose. Over here in the cons department, the things that I was a bit less hyped about. There's a couple things I want to call out here because, as you probably know by now, there really is no such thing as the perfect keyboard, at least not yet. But honestly, the Snowfox gets pretty darn close. But there are a couple things. The first is that the box doesn't actually inspire a lot of confidence in the quality of this product. There are a couple of glaring localization and spelling issues on the box, as well as if you actually look at the picture of the keyboard on the back. I didn't notice this until afterwards, but if you look at the picture of the keyboard, two of the keys are swapped. I can't remember which ones. I think it's a pair of the arrow keys. They're flip-flopped from what they should be. And that just speaks to a lack of attention to detail and polish with the exterior presentation of this product. Now, fortunately, it doesn't affect the quality of the product in the box, at least it doesn't appear to, but it would still be nice to see packaging and presentation on the exterior that matches what you find inside. Another minor quibble I have is with the backlight on this board. It's not bad by any stretch, but I did find that the color rendition for some tones, especially the red tones, was not very accurate. They come out more kind of orangey than red, and this was fairly noticeable across all of the effects, at least for me it was. And I also noticed that some of the gradients in some of the effects were not quite as smooth as they could be. Interestingly, that secondary problem with the gradients not looking super smooth does seem to be improved or even fixed when you're using the software-based lighting effects, but with the presets that come baked into the hardware, especially the moving rainbow lights, the gradations or the steps between the colors just don't look as smooth as I thought they should, and they don't animate as smoothly as I thought they should. Anyway, fairly minor quibbles. Maybe the red color rendition is more of an issue for you. It really depends on how sensitive you are to these things. And full disclosure, I am colorblind, so maybe it doesn't look so bad to you. I don't know, but to my eye, especially the red tones were a bit off. And finally, I have to say that while the software is indeed very powerful, it is not especially intuitive. You saw me struggling with it a little while ago if you watched through that part of the video. And that was more or less my first brush with the software. So, you know, you can kind of figure out the basic functionality, but there's a lot of things hidden behind weird buttons and menus that don't make a whole lot of sense. Certainly if you spend enough time with the software experimenting with it, I'm sure you could figure it all out and use it just fine. But first brush is not intuitive. It is one of the least intuitive pieces of keyboard software that I would say I have encountered. Now, to be fair, this is a beta piece of software. It says that right up front on the KEMOVE website where you download it. So, you know, maybe it will improve, but as it currently stands, the interface is unconventional at best, Byzantine at worst, we'll say. So, after all of that, what is my final verdict on the KEMOVE 61 Snowfox 60% mechanical keyboard? Well, as you've probably been able to tell, I like this keyboard a lot. And as I said at the beginning of the video, this is a fantastic time to be a mechanical keyboard enthusiast because you have such fierce competition. At the $90 price point, I think the KEMOVE Snowfox becomes my new go-to recommendation for a 60% keyboard, dethroning the mighty An Pro 2. It does everything the An Pro 2 does, some of it even better, and it has the added functionality of hot swap sockets that let you swap out those switches whenever you want. There's very little that I have to complain about with the KEMOVE Snowfox. I should also say, everything I say here about the Snowfox probably, I imagine, applies to the Shadow as well, which is the black colorway of the Snowfox. It is an exemplary keyboard in almost every way, and it has been a pleasure using it over the past few weeks. Perhaps the biggest thing that I can say, or the greatest compliment that I can pay it, is that it's very apparent that it was designed by people who care about keyboards and about the usage experience of their keyboards. There's great attention to detail throughout, and this is clearly aimed at people who look at keyboards as more than just a tool. People who are enthusiastic about their keyboards and maybe want to get their hands a little dirty, swapping out the switches, for example, modding it up a little bit, putting in some Band-Aid mods or something like that. So overall, excellent build quality, great typing experience, powerful software, and a really rich feature list, including hot swappable sockets. What's not to like? At the $90 price point, the KEMOVE Snowfox is a winner. And that, my friends, brings us to the end of another relaxing review. Special thanks, of course, to Banggood.com for sending over the review sample that we took a look at here today. And if you would like to pick up the KEMOVE Snowfox for yourself, you will find a link down in the video description that you can click through on and do just that. And if you do purchase through that link, a small portion of your purchase comes back to support the channel, which of course I appreciate very, very much. And, of course, special thanks to all of you for watching. It really does mean a lot to me that you watch what I do here and support what I do. So thank you so very much. I hope you found this video informative, and I hope you found it relaxing. And I look very forward to having you back here next time for another episode of Relaxing Reviews. Bye for now, my friends.